All right, guys, chat is enabled for everyone. Let me start my video. Good to see you guys. Welcome, everyone. I see we have quite a few new faces as well as quite a few power users here as well. So I'm guessing everybody wants to see the workflow that we currently have, how to use outranking. So I'm going to go through the basic workflow that some of you might have already seen, who have been coming to some of these webinars. But I see there are tons of new people, so I wanted to start there. You can post any question that you have in the chat, and I will address them as I go along. If you would like me to cover some things more specific, feel free to add that into the chat as well. Put down a couple of keywords that you'd like me to create content around. Maybe that might be your niche, or a keyword that you might be facing difficulty creating content around and optimizing it, right? We'll go through the entire workflow of creating it, creating a first draft, and then optimizing it quickly, going through the tool. So feel free to add a keyword in the chat that I can use to create content. And I see there's tons of people. Okay, I'm trying to raise hands, so I'm trying to see if I can allow everyone to talk. Okay, I'll just allow everyone to talk. Okay, I'm still waiting for a keyword, guys. Come on. There's tons of you guys here.
What about drug addiction?
Drug addiction. Okay, any specific drug addiction that we go after? This is a very broad topic, so it could lead to literally, I don't know, 20,000 words.
Let's go with alcohol.
Alcohol, drug, alcohol addiction. Okay, all right. So let's quickly go through using that keyword and creating the entire content around it. So alcohol addiction, I believe I can talk about it, not at length, but at least to a certain point. So I'm just allowing everyone to talk here, and then just give me a second here. All right, let's start I'll start sharing my screen. And we'll go through the process. All right, everybody can see my screen? Make it a little bigger.
Yeah, see it fine.
All right. Okay. All right, so let's start with a new document. And we're talking about alcohol addiction. Alcohol addiction. This is still a very broad topic. There could be certain topics I don't really know. I've not done much research on it, so can't really tell. But this could very well be a big pillar page talking, 360-degree about alcohol addiction. We'll figure it out. So let's create a topic, and this should take about 30 to 40 seconds for the initial research to load. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available. Okay, all right. So we started the workflow. The first thing that we want to do, since we went with the AI writing workflow, and I think everyone is going to be doing some sort of AI writing workflow, even if you are doing content brief workflow, we can go through the same keyword and generate a content brief that you can use. But since we are in the AI writing workflow, it starts with title. We want to pick a titles to ensure the consistency going further with everything that we do with the page. So analyzing and finding the right way to address the title is going to be paramount important. So let's go ahead and look at this. We'll see some top 5 ranking pages for a quick I mean, quickly seeing what other people are doing. Is there anything that you can do better, or can you create a title that is comprehensive of all the concepts that people have talked about, right? And you can clearly see this is an informative content. Nobody's trying to sell anything. It's an informative content, and helpline and things like that, right? So of nature, like just providing general guidance on how you can help people get over this alcohol addiction. So, okay, the cycle of alcohol addiction. That sounds an interesting idea. It's like, how do you go about or building certain patterns that lead to alcohol addiction? Then this is talking about alcohol addiction and abuse, like how you can really abuse it, and then science, complications, and what the recovery process looks like, right? So this gives me an idea. Some people are covering a few things, some people are covering a few other things, right? What my goal is to create something that's comprehensive of everything, because this is an informative content, and I want to ensure that my content is the best and the most comprehensive out there. That's the takeaway we are going to take. So let's pick one here, causes, symptoms, and treatment, and they're all pretty much the same, so it doesn't really matter which one I pick right now. But let's pick at this, and I can see that I'm using all of the keywords here. Let's go ahead and check the optimization score. So I clicked on this icon. This icon you will find on a few more screens where you can quickly check how well certain elements on your page are optimized. So click on it, and it will tell you words in title. You've typically targeted all four words that people have used. You're targeting most of the search terms or semantic search terms that you should be targeting with this title. There will be more semantic terms that you will target in the content to rank it for more keywords. But these are the ones that you want to target in your title. You don't have to go after everything. Most of these are semantic terms, so it's going tick mark. But many times you will find that there might be like real semantic, like they don't have a phrase match, right? They're totally different phrase, but could lead to the same meaning. So you might want to target some of the keywords over there as well. So the point is, you can see that one of the title is targeting all of these terms in the SERPs, while there are few other titles who might be targeting less, right? And right now we're targeting everything that I can see over here. Okay, the length of the title, this is for usual length, like SERP shows 60 characters, right? Give or take. But what we've noticed is that certain long tail queries, extremely long tail queries, right? Where the keywords will tend to make up 55 characters or 60 characters itself, right? So how do you go about doing that?
Can I shortly interrupt?
Sure, yes.
The title characters, the length. If you have a quick look at those on your screen, and if you click quickly on the Optimize tab, and then look at, because it's now 26 to 53 characters, the length of title. If you click on the Optimize tab on the left.
On the left. So like I'm breaking the workflow here, but what you're trying to probably address is that this character length was not the meta description that meta title had not listed, and instead it was showing the SERP title. That error was fixed.
Yeah, that you have a different length of the title on the Optimize tab. So
right. So one is the SERP title, and one is the meta title. And there's a difference, and that was a discrepancy that you probably had. So that has been fixed and patched up.
Okay. Yep. Thanks.
Okay. All right, you got it. Okay. All right. So let's go through this, and what we see over here is what people have targeted in their title, right? So we want to try and stay in the range, right? Like it doesn't really matter. I tend to maximize the potential and go ideally after 60, but sometimes you just have to go over it. I like going above 60. When there are certain keywords that I can target naturally, but I will tend to keep the entire concept that I want to deliver to the user in 60, and then add the other phrases after 60, even though it disqualifies me from this criteria. I'm still okay with it. Just not making it like crazy long, right? Like that's not the point of it. So you want to be in this particular range. So anyway, all right. So we have all three criteria matched up. Let's go ahead and close this out and quickly see. We are talking about persons who are struggling with addiction, as well as their friends and family who might be seeking to help these people. Tone is informative and instructional, right? And the tense is present tense. The point of view is third person. So I'm not suggesting anybody write this topic, right? Like you should be expert when you are writing about this. You are you're delivering something of very sensitive in nature, right? So someone who is an expert is probably going to be writing it and they know most of this insights, but someone who's creating a first draft around this and then passing it on to that subject matter expert can have a great deal of idea as to what this topic really entails. Okay, let's go ahead and generate the outline. Now this is generating outline. One thing to make clear here is generating an outline with any AI tool and generating an outline with outranking is very different. When you generate an outline using ChatGPT or any other tools, what happens is that you're most likely giving it guidance. You're telling it what outlines you want, probably giving it title and whatnot, right? But it is still not comprehensive of all the information that it would need in order to generate the most thorough outline, because it doesn't know 2021 topics, right? Like you can argue that it can go and read a few topics and give me an outline, but it cannot essentially read so many pages, extract so many entities, and help you create an outline that is comprehensive of all of these terms and all of these concepts that we find in SERP data. So what outranking does is that because we have done SERP analysis, we've extracted the keywords from the ranking pages, we have built custom models that build this outline. So for the list of things that you see over here, the first layer of outline is built, and then the internal layer of outline is built using the semantic terms, using the NLP data, and using the concepts of SERP ranking pages. So it's using a lot of these data to help you build out this comprehensive outline. And when you're talking about like products or comparing products, you will see that it often talks about buyer's guide, and it brings out those concepts which people might be comparing in different products and things like that. So for this use case, we have what are the causes of alcohol addiction? And you can see genetics, environment, brain chemistry, drug use disorder, mental health disorder. There could be few more reasons, right? I don't know. If you're a subject matter expert, you can start adding this, or you can generate similar ideas. I'll generate similar ideas. There's no guarantee that I'll get something good out of it if this is all there, like stress, peer pressure, media influence, trauma, easily availability of alcohol. All right, I'll go with this. The second is, what are the symptoms of alcohol addiction? Again, right? Like I am not an expert, but I know most of this, it's tend to be true or close enough to what it would be. How is alcoholism treated? And it left out the steps for treating alcoholism for you to be a subject matter expert and go and add those steps. Because this will tend to differ from opinion to opinion for whoever is writing this content, right? So we want to leave this out and help you build out further of this section. But you can see the most informative part about this content is already built out quite properly. Okay, we're still not done. You might think that I had the perfect outline, right? Like, am I really done here or not? No, we're not done. I still want to go and check what other people have written about. So let's see the stages of addiction cycle, right? Like, what are the causes? What are the symptoms? But there's one thing that can go in here is stages, obviously, right? So what you can do is you can insert this and say, and rewrite this eventually, right? Like, what are the stages of alcohol addiction? Are the stages of addiction or alcohol addiction? ALCOHO addiction. We'll delete the cycle. And then we can drag it and drop it wherever we want, right? Okay, so we have causes, stages, symptoms, and I'm not going to worry about the grammars and things like that, right? Like, so you can clearly see the stages of capital, and sometimes it drives me nuts, but okay, all right. Either way, so you start building out the structure by looking at some of the ranking pages and making sure that what you have is the most comprehensive of what other people have used. Recognizing abuse disorder, right? Like there's a bunch of questions. And those are the symptoms that people have said, right? Like brain, it impacts your brain, productivity, blah, blah, blah. And there's many things. So let me delete some of these things here and make the content a little shorter. Okay, all right. So it's easier for us to generate the first draft. Anyway, so let's say we have gone through all these pages and we sort of have now a more comprehensive outline. My job is still not done yet. I want to ensure that I've added all the questions that people might be asking or ranking pages might have been talking about in my FAQs. And that's why we have an FAQ section. It's built out and it's not going to be perfect, right? So you can delete things, you can move things around, and you can add more things from people also ask our ranking questions. And then lastly, check the optimization score to see if your outline has the depth and necessary elements to beat the competition. So how do we check that? We check for the first thing is the common terms. What are the common terms in the top ranking pages that every page has used, right? Like at least 5 pages, top 5 ranking pages have used. So that we know that we have definite list of terms. Then we go after how many H tags you're gonna need, right? Like, so you see that most of these pages might have 10 to 17 H tags. We have 30, I'm not saying you go as far as 30, right? But we do the job. I can just delete a few more FAQs, which I don't need here, might be repetitive, and you can decrease it, right? Okay, and then this is the most important part. If you want to rank your content for not one term, but more semantic terms, then you want to look at this section very, very, very closely and make sure that you have optimized your content with some of the terms that are listed over here, as many as possible. The ones that you see in gray are the most important because they are being directly used by your competitors, more than one. I'm not saying one, more than one. And that's why this is great, it's most important. So 12-step facilitation, 12-step groups. I don't know what that is, self-step alcohol program, and maybe that's something that everybody talks about, or the helpline page, or many other pages have been talking about, right? So it might make sense to look into this and adjust your outline so you have those comprehensive steps. Treat it. And 12-step recovery. So I'm just adding this right now over here, and you can probably do a better copywriting job at polishing this up. But you want to start including most of this thing that I've been talked about. Then you go into those yellow ones. Not saying you need to look at those, but there could be sometimes great opportunities in here that you can easily rank for. So I'm looking for anything related to alcoholism, right? Like, so food addiction, alcohol addiction, nope. Sober, 11 days sober for from alcohol, I don't know, 11 keys rehab. This is crazy, right? Like, you can go through this. But many of these terms are peripheral, means that they are, some of these pages are ranking for it and in distant position, not like super close to 1 to 5, but they're ranking in distant position by targeting some form of this keyword into their content. So that's why I'm suggesting it. But it's not super important. The most important ones are up till the gray, which are exactly what all the rank or majority of the ranking pages are targeting. So you want to go and grab as many keywords as you can and optimize your content for an outline. Okay, sometimes it might not make sense, right? A couple of keywords might not make sense because you're talking about drinking addiction and you've already talked about drinking and how is it related to addiction in some other paragraph, right? With some different terms in it. It doesn't really matter. Like, don't get stuck on it as far as you have used those terms in your outline. You emphasize them, and hence you will be writing more when you're building out those passages automatically. So it will be covered. Don't get stuck on it. Move along, but make sure that you try and optimize for most of this stuff. Okay. A little productivity hack, right? Like, if you want to move your outlines around and kind of adjust your screen, you can use this feature over here. And that's pretty much it. We have our first, we have our outline, and now we can either jump to first draft or we can do the research writing. So for most of you, the workflow that is enabled is without the research writing, but you can change that from here. And I'm not going to go through the research writing right now because I still think the expert is going to write this, but we'll get the first draft built out to a possible level, and then you can finish it off. Okay, so let's generate the first draft. And if you don't intend to generate the first draft, click this and it will exclude the process of generating the first draft and just give you outlines into the editor. But we will generate the first draft for this one. I don't see any chats, any questions. If you guys come across any question, feel free to and feel free to ask them over here.
That's probably
chat is disabled.
Yeah.
Chat is
disabled.
Chat is disabled. It's weird. Okay, chat. Okay. How about now?
It's good now.
Sounds good. Great. Sorry about that. Someone would have said something earlier. I would have turned it on. It's weird. There are two settings in Zoom to let everyone chat, and I often miss the second one. Okay, so the draft is building out, and this can take a couple of seconds, a couple of minutes, right? Depending on how long your outline is, how in-depth it is. And when it is building out, it will give you the sources where we actually pulled out the research from before writing the particular section. So it's all being influenced with real live data, not from one source, right? But for many sources, and it's giving you this information. Once this draft is generated, I will show how you can control the research that goes in writing these pages. So if you have your custom pages, your custom research, you can influence the writer in building it out based on that as well. Okay, quickly. I can save this and I can refresh to break the process. Okay, so let's say a draft is generated. The first thing you want to look at is the target score. So we need to target 79 plus, right? And there might be many elements that go into reaching that 79 plus right now. So having a score off that is not a direct indication that your content meets all the requirements, right? You need to look at that, as well as you need to look at the on-page optimization matrix and follow all the suggestions to ensure that your content meets all the standard guidelines, right? Okay, this is a huge piece of content, and I stopped with FAQs, right? You can quickly see this is 3,000 words right now, and you could potentially add a few more or delete whatever you need out of this content, and before you push it to the finish line. But let's go quickly look at this. We already looked at title. Description is straightforward, just two matrices, right? And here you can see the description is quite long, and it's not the sort of description that, you know, we are at 221, doesn't really matter as far as you're targeting keywords in it in the first sentence. Then we have the outline. We optimized our outlines too, so there's nothing to see over there. Now, this is something where you want to see. You want to pay very close attention to. Word count, all right, great. We are in that range. Common entities, I wouldn't say we are in the range. I like going for more comprehensive content, so I want to cover everything that's out there. And hence, I would try to reach as far as I can with this 75, right? So I can go down and I can see that I've not talked about liver disease, right? Like, so I've not talked about liver, and those are some of the symptoms that it built out, right? So you want to talk about that, expertise, homicide, I don't know, rehabilitation, right? Like, there's many things. There are many important things that I might want to include here that I have not. And same concept applies over here. Addiction was the only most commonly used words we found in top 5 pages. Then there were so many other variations that people have that you couldn't really build a clear patterns to say that these keywords are a must to have for this. But we see that there are many overlaps between different pages. And those are all mentioned over here. So we want to cover as many as we can out of this, leaving out some of the minor things which might not be useful at all, right? So this is what my next step would be, to fix up the content, add more value to it, add any keywords that I have missed out of, and then evaluate if my content is good enough by looking at the unique entity. What this is telling us is that every page needs to have certain amount of uniqueness. in their content, right? And that uniqueness comes from your expertise. It comes from the new concept that you've included in your content that other people might have not, structuring, and quite a few other things, right? So how do we measure this? And is it even important at all to see if there is some sort of uniqueness pattern in this ranking pages, right? So let's quickly go through our audit tab and see what I really mean. So this is our graph, and I want to look at the uniqueness. Let's discount the words over here. And you will see that there is approximately 10 to 6 or 7% of uniqueness in all the content, right? And this is a steady pattern that I see. This is great. I want to deliver that 10% uniqueness so that my content stands out. It has more additional value other than what's already covered in the ranking pages. Obviously, I still want to cover everything that every other guy has covered in those ranking pages, but I want to go a little beyond that, right? And that's the whole fundamental behind optimizing it for uniqueness. Now, when we go down and we've fixed up our common entities, you can look at unique entities and just ensure that you fall within the pattern, or you have a little more than what's suggested here, 24, right? Which is mean average, but you can go a little bit above that. This is the highest, this is the lowest, right? And so you can stay in the average, or you can go up just a little above the unique entities. Google again, right? Like when they laid out this new content, this new helpful content update that they are going to be rolling out soon, right? Like this recent update, they mentioned it. They want to prioritize pages with uniqueness to them. And that is super important. We cannot suggest you unique entities because it comes from your expertise. Even if you use ChatGPT or you use any other tools to fill out the gaps for unique entities, you still need to evaluate all the pages, find the common entities, and then say find unique entities other than this, right? Like that's insane. You're not going to be able to do that. So focus on bringing value with your own experience into unique entities that ensure that your content has some sort of uniqueness and that you deliver a little more value than what other pages might is super important. Okay. Then I'd look at statistical data, right? Like that you have used. This is very important. Like AI will often miss out. People don't know how to write prompts and urge it to give you statistics. And even if it does, it was going to give you wrong data. And people say that now GPT can go and scan pages and bring out statistics and blah, blah, blah. Try and do that into an actual workflow. It does not make sense at all. So this, again, some form of it will come from uniqueness. Some form of it can come from bringing data in external resources, which I will show how you can bring external resources in. Then looking at some table opportunities, if they have, right? Like, so here is a great example. So we looked at those 12 stages of the program, right? Or something like that. And you could have very well your own process. I would list out a table over here. The more work you do in bringing that page live tells Google that this matters to you. You're spending more time, you're bringing more value, you care about user experience and things like that, right? So if you're creating a complex HTML structure, that's a direct indication to me, and we've noticed this many places. You enhance your content structure, you make it more user-friendly, have boxes and like landing pages and things like that. It definitely affects your ranking abilities. So it's telling you whether you need to use tables or not. It was a very great example that I saw a couple of days ago where someone had a recipe page and we were discussing how this page could be improved. And we came across this opportunity where she's not using tables. She's still ranking in 7th or 8th position at super high key where she had all the backlinks and things like that. And it was just not ranking above, right? And what she was missing out was on a few things. And one of them was table. But everybody was listing out nutritions for that recipe in a table. And she was missing that totally out. Like she's not going after those nutritional values and not mentioning that in form of table. She had like barely one line written around nutrition, but nothing covering all the ingredients and the nutrition that they bring to the total value. So we added that. And guess what? Like in 3 days, right? Like that page was at number 3. No other change at all. So this does work. And it directly correlates to your user experience, to the user experience that your page delivers, right? So you want to pay attention to all of these things. Also, list items, I would break as many things I can break into list items as possible. And you would see so many list items right now because we have this URL. The moment we delete that, you'd have none, right? So this is something that you are going to have to pay attention to. You are going to have to structure your content for more better readability, understanding, user flow, and user experience, right? Like, so the more you do this, it directly indicates Google that you've spent time and energy caring about all of these things and structuring your page, and not just taken any random output and published it on website, right? So these things matter now. Then we go to media, images, all tags, videos. Again, images can have a negative impact if you're using too many of them, because your page speed, or well, page speed is not a ranking factor, what Google says, right? But it directly correlates to page experience, right? So it is a ranking signal, sort of, right? And that tells, like, sometimes your page is loading extremely slow because you have too many images on it. It's causing poor experience and people are bouncing because of that. You'd never know, right? Unless you do evaluate for many of these things. So you want to do that. And then we have videos and things like that you want to quickly optimize, and then citations, right? Like we need 8 to 18 right now. I have 88 because I've included all the URLs. And then there's internal linking. Obviously, I don't have any internal links with this, but you can generate suggestions by adding your sitemap data and saving it. So the next time it can automatically figure that out. But also building an external, a very extreme utility to automatically insert internal links into your content by adjusting content, but that's part of our next release. So you can use this internal linking, anchor tag suggestions, and make sure that you have you've gone through all the suggestions before you publish the content. So that's the basic. Now this task might have been divided in your organization. Maybe one person is doing the writing, other one is editing, the other one is fixing up the images or things like that. You can manage that workflow from statuses, and you can assign statuses to each of these individuals so they are notified as and when you move through the process. That's the basic funda about optimizing the content using outranking. You can either use audit tools to visualize the content and go through the suggestions one by one if you already have an existing content, or you can go through this entire list and ensure all the factors are met up. We also have a utility for everyone who's very accustomed with optimizing content just using terms or NLP data. Again, right, this is a very great visual representation, and you can click and you can see where the keywords have been mentioned and how well competition is covering it, right? So you can see all of this data over here and go through it and add or fix up the gaps in your content. This is also adjustable, and then you can finally make sure that your score aligned with this, and you can go to the publishing cycle. The publishing, we have many tools that allows you to help you publish. Okay. You can download just the images, markdown version of it, clean HTML. We have a WordPress plugin that you can follow and import and export content from it. You can also download this as a doc file. You can copy all the content, all in zip, or the last utility that we added was Google Doc link. If you are working with teams or someone else is publishing the content, you just need to share the doc link with them. You can click on it and it will generate a Google Doc link that you can follow and send it to your, or everyone who's on the team will be able to access. You will still have to share the access with them, but they all can see this link and they can click and get access to that document. So an easy way to collaborate within the document. Now, let me go through some of these questions before I have to show a few more things. So all right, I'll go all the way up here. Quick question about PA. Do you take this literally or rephrase it? No, you will have to rephrase this. This is taken directly from it. We don't want to rephrase it. More often than none, they would be overused and you would be targeting them by the outline that we automatically build out. But we do not rewrite them. You have to rewrite this one. Although the outline that we generate is completely unique. Okay, so far, what would you do with two subjects? Mine is gardening and well-being. Can you share, Andrea? I don't know how, if I'm pronouncing this properly or not. But can you share a little bit more? What do you really mean if you have two topics, gardening and well-being? I'll come back to that question. I often get first draft that are 9,000 words, and I sometimes end up splitting them into 3 docs. Is there a way to limit the doc to 3,000 words? Absolutely there is. There absolutely is. All right, so now I will show an advanced feature that is not enabled by default. Let's go to research writing, and then I will go to verify research. Since I've already generated the draft, it's done the research and all of this in the background already. But you can, and you will see that every prompt that we automatically build out prompt for each of the sections in the background before generating the task. So if you want to control that, you can switch on the research writing, and then you can adjust your prompts to be more concise. So in this case, it's 100 to 200 words, right? Like, hey, this is too much. Feel free to make it 300 characters, and it'll give you something of that sort, right? And all the outlines. So the only way to granularly manage this is by going through the prompt data and changing it. If you try to limit the creativity for each of the sections by fixing it with a length, then you will not get the quality of content that you should be getting. Okay, can you talk a bit about unique entities and how to reach the target? I understand I need to contribute the words on my own to provide uniqueness. Yes, absolutely. And I did cover a little bit over here about uniqueness, right? Well, actually, a lot more about uniqueness. But this really comes from an understanding of the subject properly. If you are, let's say, writing about Elementor versus Muffin Builder, right? Knowing that, and this might be true or this might not be true, right? That you can build a block of listicle in a certain way with Elementor versus a Muffin Builder is something an only expert would know, right? And often this type of things will be totally missed out from the ranking pages. They're rewrites, right? Like people are just writing about what's found on the SERP. So what I'm trying to say is that build a certain level of interest in the topic before you start writing, or understand it to the depth so that you can think like a person who would be reading this particular post and actually delivering value, or you'd be delivering value to that person, right? And how would you do that? Knowing that would help me choose tremendously on which product to choose based on my use case, right? So things like that is super important, and this would take a bit of thinking when you're doing the content, which AI is saving you tons of time on, right? So might as well spend it on a unique entity. Okay. Google's new search engine generative AI. Your thoughts. Also, snippets will be gone, replaced with AI-powered snapshot, and take a follow-up. How will all this affect and how we construct an article with OR? Okay, great. Well, the construction of article is still not changing. We just redid the score based on 2023 and how we should be approaching content with is actually with more unique value. Apart from that, generative AI, and this is great that Google is doing this, and let's go through some of these things, okay? And this is it took me some time to figure out like what would be the impact of it, but this is what I think like it's really going to happen. There are already featured snippets, right, for many of the content which is generic and that can deliver a direct definition of what someone might be looking for right away. And that has more likely resulted into 0 clicks over the period of years, right? We'll see a little bit more of that. So what I'm trying to say is that generic content that adds no additional value will die. Like you cannot do SEO for things like definition of content marketing. Like, yeah, although many people might be ranking for it right now, but those terms will be obsolete, right? Like those are terms that anybody would know. So AI would definitely know and learn and things like that. But where things get a little complicated, where you want to evaluate a product, right? Like Google, we saw Google doing A/B testing around showing products too. But what I saw was most of the products were totally not related to what we want to deliver. So what I tend to suggest is that over the period of time, for the sake of publishers, new content, and balancing with the AI model, will not see significant impact on the sites which are ranking for content which delivers value, more on top of this generic terms. Secondly, I also think that there will be more opportunities for more people to rank because now the queries get a little complex. And if you know how many search queries are not delivering answers right now, the number is huge compared to the number that is delivering value. Those will be fulfilled better with combination of queries and understanding. That means more people will land to your content from queries that you didn't even know could be targeted. So I see minimal impact on that. Getting on the SERPs will still be the same and still follow the same pattern. The more emphasis will be on uniqueness of your content, what additional value that it delivers, that an AI can capture, summarize, and show so more people can understand more about you or whether your content is comprehensive or not and delivers on the value that those SERPs should be delivered, right? So give or take, nothing's changing for you. Keep hustling at it and keep going at it. You will see some keywords fluctuate, go down, and many will get more traffic as well. So I think at the end of the day, nothing changes for an SEO over here. Sure, there might be different ways of optimizing content to get in those snippets and things like that. And I still think featured snippet is an AI-driven model that they have to figure it out. And I think we cracked it, right? Like we have featured snippet optimization and outranking. It works pretty well. So you can give or take, there might be more tools and more understanding of how this content is ranked might come out in future, but I don't think we are there yet. And there's anything to worry as of right now. Can you export the doc content via API? Absolutely. If you are a tech person, download the WordPress plugin. And you should have the post method in it. If you need documentation, reach out to support. We can share the documentation with you as well. I do the same for not adding in outranking. Maybe I should change the habit. Okay, it's referring into David's comment. So, okay, I'm going back to David's comment. No, I missed a few comments, so I have to go back. How does it identify that an entity is just keyword that are unusual to SERP? Well, you want to see nouns, proper nouns, right? Like proper nouns attached with the subject, like a subject of a sentence. When you're extracting this n-grams and NLP terms in combination, those are the subjects that an entire sentence is surrounding around. So when you extract those entities or when you extract those concepts out of it, those become your unique entities if they're not covered in any of the other pages, right? Like, so we're doing term-to-term match. We're not looking at semantic terms, and that would be excruciatingly painful and not cost-effective at all. But this serves as a very good benchmark because we're scoring other pages on the same benchmark. Okay, will the source links work against you if the source itself is ranking for focus keyword, your new? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, you should not be including any of this links in your content as giving them a backlink, right? Like unless and until it's something that is not in SERPs or it's not avoidable, like giving a link to the helpline page that we saw, right? But yeah, no. If you would like the content to be unique yet generated around the dependencies of NLP data, you can go to your outline and you can add pages or URLs or even search queries, which are apart from bringing these pages over here that we see in SERPs. So you can add those pages and then regenerate your draft. But when you're regenerating it, you can disable all the pages which you don't want to use as part of your research. That way, it gives you all the unique data, but it revolves around the entities mentioned in your outline. So it is still going to give you very optimized draft when it gets out. Okay, I add images, and David said I add images and links in WordPress. I assume the score would get higher. Is it worth reviewing new pages as an existing page? New page. I do not understand that last sentence. But yes, the score would be higher if you'd add links and images in here. We're trying to make it more streamlined for even for WordPress. You can try out the plugin for export and import unless you are using a custom editor for building out your post. In that case, you have no option but to copy and paste the content and create your own post. I'm not sure what the second part of the question means. Is it worth reviewing new page as an existing page? If a new page is been published and it is ranking of some sorts, only then I would review it as an existing page. I'm not quite sure on the question there. Okay, to explain, it is Andrea says, like, to explain, it is gardening for wildlife and also gardening and great for mental health, well-being, and so on. So I post on both. Well, that's great, right? Like, you're still building, you are still building that authority around gardening, right? And you're still talking about two different niches, but like sort of related with gardening. I don't see any problem in keeping in writing about those two topics at scale, right? Like it should be no problem at all. Can OR figure out why an page is over optimized and it's not showing up in top 100 after the core updates? Yeah, you should be able to. Go to optimize. You can run an existing audit for that, right? To actually figure that out, and we can actually run an audit. So let's go ahead and find. Well, I want to see something else. So let's see. Stress reduction technique. We'll copy this keyword and we'll evaluate a page right now to see what happens. I'll create a new document. I'll go to optimize existing. I'll put the keyword in and let's find a page which is ranking a little further out. Okay, all right. So this probably is ranking in the top 30, but I'll copy this URL, paste it in here, and we'll see how we can come up with the audit. So page page being over optimized might be an issue. Page not delivering on value might be an issue. Many pages on your website not delivering value against a few pages delivering value could be an issue. So there could be many things. But if this is one or two of cases, right, like a few cases where a few pages fell to the ground, then I would say definitely go and look at this technique that I'm showing you. But if it's a site-wide problem, right, then you know that it did not affect, one page is what was not the culprit. There were many other pages that contributed to that. That would be definitely one, but we should be able to figure out most of the things over here. Okay, H2 is H2 is H2. So let's do this. All right. So we have this content over here, and the score is 42. And I want to see what things I can improve, right? So let's go ahead and look at this. 21st page number is my content, right? So this is 21st. My page authority is 24. So I'm saying mine because I use this URL, right? Like this is not my website. And now I want to evaluate what I can do better, right? So each score absolutely is one of the factors. So like overall content quality could be an issue. Uniqueness could definitely be an issue, right? Like if your content is way too unique or way not too unique, right? Like both could be an issue. I would just check for the score first, right? And then go look at all the things that I can improve to get it started. Like title, if it's missing the keyword that you should be targeting, right? Like, so let me tell you this, right? When I go to the score and I see title, search terms in title, like here, you will clearly be able to see what you're missing out. And these terms are not random. They are used by most of the ranking pages, right? Which tells us something, which tells us that you might have not used it. It's also possible you've used way too many of it, or just like, if there were like 30 suggestions here and you've used like 27, then you know that it's over optimized. But if your content length is more, if you are overdoing on keywords, if your density of certain keyword is extremely wrong, all of those suggestions can easily be pulled out in the audit, and you can go through the topics that are being discussed here. You can clearly see, right, like what it's suggesting, and you can add those, or you can delete those from your content and optimize it to fit the current situation. But what I mean is that if it dropped out, like completely dropped out, then it could definitely be the content issue, right? So you might want to look at content that you comprehensively covered, but not in the right manner, like, literally used banner like 100 times on the page when you're not supposed to. But some of those things, density related, should be caught up or by outranking to increase the frequency of this term, right? Like, so relaxation. It would also tell you to decrease the frequency of certain terms if you've used it way too much. So use both of those techniques and try and see if you can improve the page and optimize and re-upload. So when you get feature snippet optimization, and this page is targeting, so or shouldn't be targeting, so it's not giving it. But when you are doing feature snippet optimization, follow very precise instructions. I have it was recently published a feature snippet article on how to rank as a feature snippet for some of the content pieces in your content. Check that out on our blogs, and everything is on blogs now, so you can check that out on the blog. And I'll try and share the link before we go. So for everyone who want to quickly understand how to optimize for feature snippet, you have to target the keyword that you're trying to optimize feature snippet for. And it has to be a keyword that outranking is suggesting in your search terms of H tags. You can't just have any keyword that you're trying to target, right? Like, it doesn't really matter to outranking. It has to be a keyword that you are supposed to be optimizing it for. You can add that either in H2 or H3 tag, and you can write a description below that of 300 characters or less with the keyword targeted in H2/H3, whatever is preceding here, in the first sentence. This is the key to optimizing. It's very simple. Yep. People often either miss this or miss the first sentence. Got it. Okay. Any other pressing questions that people have, want to learn anything? And let me show you a very quick thing. Like, so if you're working with teams, right, we're trying to make things super easy for everyone. And if I was to share this with my writer should be automatically notified. Like, I don't have to obviously go and tell the writer that, hey, I published the article, right? Like, do this, that, blah, blah, blah. It will automatically share the Google Doc link, and it'll share this page link with my writer. When I click on it, and you can see it in the share, it's automatically shared. So there you go. You can easily manage this workflow and go through the process of optimizing the content. And all of these statuses that are changed, you can follow your dashboard and document workflow view to follow these and move the steps along. So, all right, any other questions? We're coming near of the session. This was a great session. There's many people, and I still sticking around. So if you guys have any question using the platform, feel free to drop it now. We still have 5 more minutes. Happy to address anything that I missed out on. If you are brave enough and want to ask a question directly into by unmuting yourself, that's fine too. Everyone is allowed to talk, I believe.
Hey, Pankil, I had 2 quick questions,
Yep.
if possible. One, the first language update from the Dutch language. Do you have estimation when that one?
We did. It's updated. Dutch is updated.
Oh, okay. Then I just have to read.
It was updated the same day. Yeah, it was updated the same day. So yeah, just rerun your document and it should be fine. As in you can just go through the step from title and start again, and it should be fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, we'll do that.
You got it.
Oh, and one other question with the search credits. Are these rollover with the search credits, or is that
Search credits are not rollover, not currently. And we were thinking about this pricing thing in general in the coming days. So once we do the next release, it might change a little bit, but it's not. There are plenty of ways to consume those credits before the day ends, right? Like you can add keywords, you can add more stuff and do more stuff. So there is no rollover at the point, but there are plenty of ways to use them as you go along.
Yeah, true. Okay, thanks a lot.
You got it. Can I still input my own sections of selections of URL for research? Where do I do this? Julie, it is still at the same place. Let me open this up. And you can go to your outline and add URLs to background data. And this is where you add your URLs, or you can add search operators to bring more URLs from Google. You got it. Okay, any other questions? Great stuff. All right. This is a great session, plenty of questions. And if you guys have any more questions, feel free to post them in the group or send them to support. And we'll see you next week. You got it, Paul. You're very welcome. Sounds good. All right, guys, some exciting news coming next week. But till then, have a great weekend and we'll see you next week.